Hey, welcome back to the Grit Culture. Before we get this video started, if you appreciate the content and some of my commentary, feel free to like, share, and most of all, subscribe to the channel. Just help boost me up in the algorithm and help build this channel even more. But let's get into it.
Do you still watch a lot of basketball, or
No, I don't.
tell me about that? When and did you stop immediately from the time you stopped coaching?
No, I didn't. I watched some of the game evolve and decided, and they went into the lockout year and they did something that was kind of wanky. They did a bubble down in Orlando, and all the teams that could qualify went down there and stayed down there.
No audience.
And they had things on their back like, Justice, and I made a little funny thing like, Justice just went to the basket and Equal Opportunity just knocked him down. And somebody, I had another name for a guy who has jersey in the back of a jersey, had some other slogan. So my grandkids thought that was pretty funny to play up those names. So I couldn't watch that. And the Lakers won, actually. They won that year. And
Do you feel like it just made little of the game, like it made it like a sideshow? What do you think it was that turned you off?
well, it was they even had slogans on the floor, on the baseline. It was catering. It was trying to cater to an audience or trying to bring a certain audience into play. And they didn't know it was turning other people off, People want to see sports as non-political. We've had a lot of different type of players that have gone on to be like, Bill Bradley was a senator, number of baseball players have been representatives and senators and political, but their politics stay out of the game.
Yeah, it's separate.
Doesn't need to be there.
Let's talk about Phil Jackson. So Phil Jackson was recently on the Rick Rubin podcast. I haven't heard from Rick Rubin in a long time. I know he was had a career at Def Jam. Was he the president? I know he had a very prominent role, large role at the building of Def Jam. One of the biggest recording companies ever, especially in hip hop. But Phil Jackson was on there, and the discussion came about, does he still watch the NBA today? And Phil Jackson basically responded no, stating his reason being a lot of the things that happened during 2020, during the bubble, with the whole, all the BLM, all of the slogans and everything that were painted on the floor and plastered around the arena. Also, some of the slogans that were on the back of the jerseys. Even commented talking about some of his grandchildren and whatnot. They thought it was pretty hilarious to see justice blocking equity, and So this is the thing about it. I do not. Well, I'll say it like this. I'm not gonna say I don't agree, because what is there not to agree with? That's his personal decision not to watch it. I love the NBA. I love what the NBA does, but they pissed off a large percentage of their fan base. And that's one of the things that any business owner, anybody should take into account when they decide to take a particular stance. You should be ready you're taking a risk. You're taking a risk by doing what you're doing. Now, he said that they were catering and stuff like that. It'd probably be nice for him to probably, be more specific. Like, what are they catering to? Are they catering to particularly black people? Were they catering to what they believe to be the vocal majority, which it may have been the vocal minority? And I'm not saying minority as in black people or, stuff like that. I'm talking about majority and minority. Who knows? But this is my problem with what he says, and I'll lead up to it. What the NBA did that year, what a lot of sports were doing that year was nonsense. It was built out of what happened with George Floyd. Now, the George Floyd thing was awful, was a terrible fucking thing. But the narrative that was born out of the George Floyd thing was about, there was an emphasis put on race. And it's what you've heard me speak about in many topics. You heard me speak about it just within the Ralph Yarrow topic. There was an emphasis put on race because what the media likes to do is exploit that. So when a situation happens between a black man and a white man, it automatically goes to race. But it's only if the white man does it to the black man, not vice versa. Or if it's a black man, like, certain things like, of course you can't do that if it's a black man or anything. But even if it's a Mexican and a black man, they never do it. They only exploit it when it's white man versus black man. And I understand, and they play upon history because there's a history that's built behind it. It's a real history. But they utilize and manipulate the news to, have people emotional and willing to jump to that conclusion when there's a lot of things that you have to be able to unravel before you even get to, oh, it's race. Even then, when you talk about with George Floyd, it's not the officer just automatically went up and started kneeling on him and automatically killed him. That's if it was that, then you have strong, you have a strong case for speculation of it being racial. But there was a lot of things that led up to it. There was a, kind of a struggle, George Floyd falling out of the car. And so what you get in the end is, what you saw, even with the thing that happened in Memphis, is just an abuse of power, especially you have police officers and they don't want to have to wrestle you and stuff like that. And if you don't obey their commands, power's like a drug and a lot of people abuse it no matter what their race is. So race can be a factor. It can be a factor on the on how things end or how they escalate the situation. But like I said, there's a lot of things that have to be unraveled before we even get to that. The whole race conversation during 2020 completely took away from the authoritarian conversation about police. But that wouldn't have been, they didn't want to bring it to an authoritarian conversation because there was all kinds of authoritarianism that was happening. If you if you made the conversation about authoritarianism, then you would put a spotlight and a focus on the things that were happening in 2020 where it came to people's private property being seized or shut down against their own will. Due to the whole virus, which was if you look in understand your civil rights, it was a violation of civil rights under color of law. It was just all sorts of different things. And so you would have to have that conversation, and that's not where the media went with it. So they were able to manipulate and make it about race, and that was what it was built out. And then you had BLM, which is a scam of the group, not people saying it, but the group itself. They were, I didn't even want to say it because I didn't even want to give them any power. They're not in it for black people. Those people are Marxist, socialists. They don't believe in private property and things like that. And it goes even deeper with those guys. They're manipulators. But when Phil Jackson says that he doesn't like for his sports to be political, well, that's hypocritical. That's a hypocritical statement. And maybe he doesn't realize this because we've been so taught on certain things, or maybe he has a particular bias about what's going on with, or how black people may feel. I can't say, I can't make an assertion, but it's hypocritical because when you have players standing up for the national anthem and you're chanting this, that's political. That's based. It's political. Have the American flag draped and flying. That's political, whether you believe it or not. That's a political representation. When you have the military-industrial complex flying over the arenas or flying over the football field and everything. The imperialist. That's political. The whole Colin Kaepernick thing that pissed a lot of the fan base in the NFL off, that would not have happened if it was not a national anthem or if there was no flag flying. And whether you agree with him or not, if you're for the Constitution and you agree with First Amendment rights, he had every right to exercise his First Amendment rights, whether you thought his fight was legitimate or not. He had every right to. And so it's hypocritical. But you open that door by having that, presenting the American flag and standing for the national anthem and stuff like that. So now you've opened the door for him to protest and take the different route. And there's a lot of people that, that got pissed off about that. But then, the NFL and a lot of teams, Colin Kaepernick got blackballed. That pissed off a lot of black people to where they didn't want to watch the NFL at that time. But they only make up a certain percentage of the population, and they're not the core fan base. Could it have pissed off white people too? Yeah. But these are certain things that you incorporate and chances that you take based upon the business model and the fan base or whatever, or the customers that you have when you decide that you want to take a stance, whether it's right or wrong, and we want to take a stance or we want to take a political stance with your business. And it's just something that you got to live with. And I think the NBA has decided, NBA decided that's what they want to go with. Now, Adam Silver said he was going to go in a different direction and, get rid of that because, of course, NBA players are still wanting bigger contracts and everything like that. They want more money. So you can't have your cake. You can't have both. You got to be able to do one or the other. But, a lot of the damage has already been done when you look at their ratings. But those guys are still making money. But I just think it's, like I said, it's hypocritical on Phil Jackson's part. And, it's bullshit because politics has always been involved with sports. It's always been a part of it. And so what makes it, you still watching basketball. You should still be able to separate the two and just appreciate the game of basketball. You know who these players are on the floor who are, shooting the ball, going dunking and playing defense and everything. You know those guys, no matter what's on the back of their jersey or anything like that. You know who they are. If you're a true fan of basketball, you should be able to appreciate it. Now, if you didn't like the message, if you thought you could, it's one thing to say, I don't like their messaging because it was manipulative. It was manipulative to the actual narrative or what actually took place. That's one thing. But to just say, oh, I don't like it because it's BLM and equality and equity and that, this and that, and it's political. It became political. That's bullshit. And people are right to call you out on your bullshit. That's simple. So, that's all I got to say about this. Y'all let me know what y'all think about this Phil Jackson situation. But like I said, it's hypocritical. Hypocritical, like a lot of people are today. It's the grid culture. I'll holler at y'all later.